We've all been there, standing over a simple chip shot, hands shaking, mind racing, wondering how something so basic became so terrifying. The dreaded chipping yips, golf's most frustrating mental demon. That moment when a basic shot that you've executed thousands of times suddenly feels impossible, when your hands won't listen to your brain, and every chip becomes an adventure. You've probably tried everything. Changing your grip, adjusting your stance, hours of practice drills. Maybe you've even bought those specialty chipping clubs that promise instant relief, but nothing seems to work. And worse, every failed attempt just adds another layer of frustration and fear. But what if everything you've been told about curing the yips is wrong? What if the traditional methods are actually making your problem worse? Today we're going to challenge everything you think you know about beating the yips. We're going to explore some controversial but incredibly effective methods that might just save your short game. And fair warning, your teaching pro might not like what I'm about to share. Let's start with the biggest myth in yip correction, the grip. Your teaching pro probably told you to grip the club lighter, to feel soft hands, to let the club do the work. Relax your hands, they say. Feel like you're holding a bird, they say. Well, I'm here to tell you something controversial. When it comes to the yips, that advice is completely wrong. Here's why. The yips aren't actually about tension. They're about uncertainty. That light grip everyone preaches? It leaves room for doubt. Room for those tiny, unconscious movements that send your chip shots sculling across the green. Think about it. When was the last time you yipped a shot while gripping the club firmly? I bet you can't remember one. So here's what I want you to try instead. Grip that club like you're trying to squeeze water from it. Yes, really, I want your knuckles white, I want your forearms tensed. This does two crucial things. First, it physically prevents those small twitches that cause the yips. Your hands literally can't make those tiny destructive movements when they're gripping the club this firmly. But here's the real magic. It gives your brain something else to focus on besides the fear of chunking or blading the shot. Instead of your mind running wild with all the ways things could go wrong, you're focused on maintaining that firm grip. It's a classic pattern interrupt. Now, I know what you're thinking, but won't a tight grip ruin my feel? Actually, no. Feel is overrated when you're battling the yips. You don't need feel, you need consistency, and a firm grip gives you that consistency. Once you've beaten the yips, then we can talk about developing feel, but for now, squeeze that grip. Now let's tackle another sacred cow of golf instruction, the standard chipping stance. You know the one. Open stance, weight forward, hands ahead, ball back in your stance. It's in every golf magazine, every YouTube video, every lesson. But when you're dealing with the yips, this position actually makes things worse. Why? Because it creates too many variables. Too many things to think about. Is my stance open enough? Are my hands far enough forward? Is my weight distributed correctly? Each question is another opportunity for doubt to creep in. Each adjustment is another chance for your yips to take control. Instead, I want you to do something radical. Square everything up. And I mean everything. Feet parallel to the target line, like you're putting. Ball in the dead center of your stance. Hands in their natural position, not pressed forward, shoulders level, weight centered. Yes, this goes against everything you've been taught about chipping. Yes, your local pro might have a heart attack if they see you doing this. But here's the secret that nobody talks about. When you're fighting the yips, simplicity beats technique every single time. This squared stance might not be textbook, but it reduces the number of moving parts. Fewer moving parts means fewer things that can go wrong. Let me explain why this works. Traditional chipping technique evolved to help good players hit a variety of shots, but right now you don't need variety, you don't need options, you need consistency, you need a method that works repeatedly under pressure, and this squared setup delivers exactly that. This next tip might get me kicked out of some golf clubs, but it's too effective not to share. I want you to completely stop thinking about chipping as a golf shot. Instead, I want you to imagine you're setting a clock. Every chip, regardless of distance, regardless of lie, is simply moving the hour hand from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. No golf swing thoughts, no technique, no worrying about attack angle or bounce or any of that technical stuff, just moving that clock hand. Back to 3 through to 9. That's it. That's your entire swing thought. Now this might sound overly simplistic, maybe even a bit ridiculous. But there's profound psychology at work here. The yips are essentially a form of task-specific anxiety. Your brain has learned to fear this particular motion, but by reframing the motion as something completely different, something your brain hasn't learned to fear, you can bypass that anxiety entirely. Think about it. Have you ever had the yips while pointing at something, while reaching for a glass of water? While moving your arm in any normal daily activity? Of course not. The yips only show up when you're trying to hit a golf shot, so stop trying to hit a golf shot. Move the clock hand instead. This method does something else that's incredibly powerful. It gives you a clear, specific endpoint for your swing. One of the biggest causes of the yips is uncertainty about how far to swing the club, but when you're just moving from 3 to 9, that uncertainty disappears. Your brain knows exactly where the motion should end. I've seen this method work for players who had almost given up on golf entirely. Players who couldn't chip a ball onto a beach, let alone a green. Within minutes of adopting this clock concept, they were chipping with confidence again. Now we come to perhaps the most controversial part of this whole program. This is where we really break from tradition. Most Yip Cure advice tells you to practice under calm, controlled conditions, to build confidence slowly, to avoid pressure until you're ready. Traditional wisdom says to hit thousands of chips in your backyard, gradually working up to real on-course situations. Wrong, dead wrong. The yips are a pressure problem, and you can't cure a pressure problem by avoiding pressure. That's like trying to overcome a fear of heights by staying on the ground floor. It might feel safer, but it's not solving the actual problem. Instead, I want you to practice your chipping under ridiculous amounts of pressure. And I mean ridiculous. Here's what I want you to do. Make every practice chip a bet with yourself. Put your favorite club on the line. Video yourself and post it on social media. Tell your playing partners that you'll buy drinks if you don't get up and down. The key is to make practice pressure even higher than real tournament pressure. Because here's the thing about pressure. It's relative. If you practice under extreme pressure, regular on-course pressure starts to feel manageable. It's like the old story about the boxer who trained at high altitude. When he came down to sea level, everything felt easier. But there's another deeper reason why this works. The yips feed on the fear of embarrassment. They thrive in that space between wanting to succeed and being afraid to fail. By deliberately putting yourself in high-pressure situations, by choosing to face that fear head-on, you take away its power. You're no longer trying to avoid embarrassment, you're actively seeking out challenging situations. Now how do you put all this together? Start with the grip. That's your foundation. Squeeze that club tight, then set up square. Remember, we're keeping things simple. Use the clock method for every chip, no exceptions. And most importantly, practice under pressure from day one. The key is to commit fully to this system. Don't mix and match with other methods. Don't fall back on your old habits when things get tough. Give yourself at least a month of using these techniques exclusively. No compromises, no experiments, no listening to well-meaning advice from your playing partners. And here's something crucial. Keep a record of your progress. Film yourself chipping, keep stats, write down how you feel. Because the improvement might be gradual and you'll want to be able to look back and see how far you've come. Look, I know these methods are unorthodox. They fly in the face of traditional golf instruction. But the traditional methods aren't working for you. That's why you're watching this video. The yips aren't a technique problem, they're a human problem. And sometimes solving human problems requires thinking outside the box. These methods have worked for hundreds of golfers who thought their chipping yips were permanent. Golfers who had tried everything else. Golfers who were ready to quit the game entirely. They can work for you too. If you found this helpful, make sure to like and subscribe for more unconventional golf tips. Drop a comment below with your own unusual methods for beating the yips. And if you're brave enough to try these techniques, post your results. I'd love to hear how they work for you. Until next time, keep challenging the conventional wisdom. And remember, the yips are temporary, but confidence is forever.